Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Heart Canon Podcast. I'm your host, Epic Ray of Epic Ray Comedy, and we're going to be talking today about the Harry Potter universe, particularly the absolute canon events of the Harry Potter universe of one of our favorite characters, Harry Potter himself. I'm joined by my good friend Mari. Mari, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm very happy to join you.
It's good. It's good to have you here. They're going to be releasing the Harry Potter TV series in 2027. We briefly spoke about that before we started recording. Are you excited for it?
Yeah, I'm really excited for it.
The casting looks great. The story is already impeccable, but we're going to deep dive more into this actual topic and give some good insight to people, and that lets you know what your comments are for this particular event. So for the Harry Potter universe, there are several points that we would probably say that bring us into the Harry Potter universe that allows it to be this something that we all envision and see. It starts off with the first book when we're introduced to the Wizarding World, and he's taken up by Hagrid, and he goes diagonally. He goes to Hogwarts. He meets his friends, plays Quidditch, and does all these things in the first book. And Mari, you take the second book. Go ahead.
Let's see. The second book, we meet a lot more characters. A lot more things happen. Oh God, it's been so long since I've read the books. Which is the second book now? Sorry about that. I
Chamber of
just blanked.
Secrets.
Yeah. No, Chamber of Secrets, you get to learn a lot more about Voldemort and all the hidden spots within. Um, the school. They get a lot closer as friends. You meet some very interesting characters along the way. Some that like to steal memories, apparently.
And it also plays out well that a lot of these characters that are in the books, like, they're never there for just a season. Like, we hear about them in future books, or they're connected in some type of way to the ones that are gonna be happening. Like, some there are characters that are in book 2 that are gonna be popping up in book 4, and they have like significance in the latter books that we didn't see at a certain point.
I do appreciate that they're throughout all of the books, because I don't know, I don't like when I read a series and there's just a character that's just there for like 2 seconds and then disappears. You're just like, well, what is the point of them? So I like that within the Harry Potter series, you see characters you meet in the first book, or even are just mentioned in the first book, you see them like 3 books later, and you actually get to know them.
And we also realize that there's some of the characters that they're in the book for for one season, and like it's because they're serving a specific purpose, and when that purpose is fulfilled, then they're not mentioned or they're not shown again. But even, what was it, Professor Quirrell, who ended up dying away in the first book, he's still mentioned in the fourth book, not by name, but he's still mentioned. And then he's also mentioned, I believe, in book 5 briefly by Dumbledore during the prophecy chapter. So everyone is in some type of way mentioned. They might be not be by name, but everyone essentially always comes back in some type of way.
Yeah, they constantly will mention things that happened in the first book, like in the last book. Um, so like you always have characters will always pop back up again. That's very true. And
In some type of way. But before we jump into the episode, I talked to you about this earlier, and I think this is probably best where we can actually go ahead and put this in there. I can make this into a short later. So I was talking to Mari about the Marauders map, and there's been like a bunch of distinction when it comes to what are the rules from the map, and like certain characters, like they showed in the movies, like Pettigrew was on the map, and from what we understand from what J.K. Rowling said, that the movies and the books are two different universes, which I'm glad she made that distinction for a lot of people. But when it comes to the rules for the Marauders map, and like to answer a lot of questions, I came up with these 3 rules that hopefully will actually give some insight to what we were discussing about. So the first rule is that when you're using the map, the reason there's not like 2,000 names all over the map for it is that when you're using the map, you're looking for someone specific, which is why certain characters pop up on the map consistently and why the entire school is not flooded on there. And then there's also, I think, rule number two, this is someone that you are trying to avoid. So, first two rules are someone you're looking for and someone you're trying to avoid. This is why when Harry or the twins or someone uses the map, the school isn't flooded with a bunch of names and everything. It's, you're looking for someone specific. So when Harry was used the map, he's always looking for Filch, or he's looking for Mrs. Norris or Snape or someone who could essentially get them into trouble. And then you're also looking for someone specific because when he looked at the map in the sixth book, he was looking for Draco Malfoy and he saw him up until a certain point. He wasn't trying to avoid him, he was actively seeking him out. And then I believe the third instance that I had was that this is someone that you know, even though they may be in disguise. Because I remember Lupin saying that even though James was under his invisibility cloak, he still showed up on the map in some type of way. So this also explains why Barty Crouch Jr. showed up on the map, even though he's being magically concealed as the last immunity, his name still showed up on the map. And this is someone that Harry actively saw on the map as well.
It
So
also explains why Lupin saw Pettigrew on the map.
exactly that as well, because he actively knew that Peter was an animagus, a form of concealment. He also knew that Sirius was an animagus, and that his dog was also a form of concealment. So this is why they popped up on the map, and they showed up on the map. To answer the question of why Fred and George never saw Pettigrew on the map is because they didn't know that Pettigrew was an animagus, so they could not physically see him because they did not know him.
I always wondered why there weren't so many people on the map, because like imagine if they created the map to see everyone, who you couldn't actually find anyone if the whole school was on the map.
It would honestly be like a, what is it, a World of Warcraft server where everyone's just wandering around and you're trying to find that one friend. Like you're not gonna find them. You're not.
Or any RPG for that matter that like has an online thing where you're like looking for somebody and you're just like, nope, there's too many people here.
It's like someone clear out of the way. I'm looking for the one friend. Okay, what does he look like? He's an elf. We got 2,000 of those here. Be more prescriptive. Well, they're green. 1,000. Well, they're wearing leather armor. We're jumped back up to 3,000 now.
Yup, you can never find them.
So I think those would be honestly three good rules that we could possibly say that would actually answer any questions that people may have about the Marauders map. But if you do have any more questions, send me a like or send me a message down below, and we'll probably discuss a little bit further in another episode. But for now, um, we'll go on to book three, where Harry gets some background on his parents, learns about their friends and what ultimately ended up happening to his parents, the betrayal of Peter Pettigrew. Fourth book, Goblet of Fire, Tournament, Voldemort gets resurrected. Fifth book, their Dumbledore's armies form, which I actually love that because it actually, you're seeing them grow into teenagers at that point, and like you see that teenage rebellion being shown in the books, and like they're rebelling against authority, which I actually truly loved about that book. And then I'll have you do 6 and 7.
Let's see. Actually, funny, right before we get into 6 and 7, 5 is actually the longest book in the series.
I think it's 900
But
pages.
yeah,
Isn't it?
yeah. And then 6, you find out a lot about Snape's connection to his mother and the mysterious textbook that he shouldn't have, and you get to see them deep dive into the world a little bit more with the whole like all the fights going on and everything, and then when 7 rolls around, you learn even more about the Horcruxes, how to fight against them, and it's the last fight against Voldemort and everything. So within the last like 3 books, so much happens.
and it ends up being like something that like she's writing this web, and everything just seems to be connected in some type of way, which eventually ends up paying off in the sixth and seventh book. But I do have one question for you, um, and this goes out to all the other readers as well. And I probably end up making this a short as well. When did you find out about Sirius's brother's connection um, in what was it in the sixth book? Like, when did you figure it out?
I think it took me a bit to figure out when I first read the books because I read them when I was a lot younger, so I wasn't like used to like sitting there and like nowadays I read a book and I could probably figure that out within the first like few pages of them being mentioned. But back then, no, it took me a while to figure that out.
I think it was probably like my third or fourth read through. Like, because when I got the book, I started reading it immediately. Like, I finished it the day I got it, and the one thing that stuck out, because I read it four times. I think around the third or fourth time when I saw the RIB pop up, it's like, okay, who have they introduced already that has like RB initials? And it was no one alive that we have been given up to that point. I'm like, okay, let's check and see if there's anyone that's dead. And the only person whose name matched it was Regulus Black. And I'm like, this is probably the one person that could probably match with this. And then when the seventh book came out, I'm like, got it, nailed it.
Yeah,
And
when I figured it out, I think I read them when I read the books like when I was like in middle school, early high school, and then I reread them when I was in college, and that's when like was able to put it together quicker.
it was, what was it? And this shows how small she'll leave a detail in that ends up paying off so much further in the story. Like, she put the locket in the fifth book, but it was such a small detail. Like, the detail was, I think, maybe 2 to 3 sentences long, that you would never have picked up on it. And then it's mentioned in the seventh book during, I think the chapter is called Creature's Tale, and Harry remembers it immediately. Like, they were saying, like when they were cleaning the house and the locket was being passed around, and it was something that they could not open, so they just threw it into the trash. And then Harry immediately remembers it as they're talking about it, when they're talking to Creature, and it's like, there was a locket. Like, we threw it away with the trash because we could not open it. And that whole time, it was a Horcrux there.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing like I love about Harry. He'll remember small little details like that, but then there's other things where something's mentioned to him like six times and he can never remember it.
Oh, you're talking about the Bertha Jorkin things we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
So,
But like a small little locket he remembers like in a split second. And those are just two of the things. But like in general, he's always like that. He's like he remembers the tiny, tiny little details of things.
and it's so funny because, again, we were talking about this earlier. It's like, he had the dream about this. I'm talking about in the fourth book. He has a dream about Voldemort and Wormtail, and they're discussing the plan to eventually get Harry. And Bertha Jorkins is mentioned in the chapter, and he actually says that Bertha's gone. Like, she's like he unalived her, and Harry wakes from the dream. Her name is mentioned 3 times before he goes back to school, and he does not remember it in the slightest way, because it's mentioned by Mr. Weasley and Percy at dinner. It's mentioned by Bagman and Mr. Weasley during the World Cup, and then it's mentioned again by Mr. Weasley when he comes home from working, and that is front page news now. That she's missing. So it's one of those things. It's like, she's right there. Like, it's right there, and you don't see it. And it's this also, now that I actually think about it, Dumbledore is kind of a little bit like lacking that area too, because in the chapter where Mr. Crouch Sr. shows up at the school, Mad Eye shows up in the forest just randomly, who we know as Barty Crouch Jr., and he tells him, like, Snape told me that you were here. I don't understand why Dumbledore did not confirm with Snape or thank him for sending Mad Eye out to him, because Snape could have confirmed that in a second. Like, I didn't speak to him. I didn't talk to him at all.
Yeah. Though when it goes back to Harry, we also remember that there were letters flying everywhere, and he easily could have picked one up off the floor. And he's trying to catch them out of the air. There's a reason that he is not a Ravenclaw.
Even though I think it did actually, it didn't mention it. I forget what the hat said. He had said not what is it? He said difficult, very difficult, plenty of courage, not a bad mind, and a thirst. Like, he pretty much qualified in every single house, but it was just there was so much of it in his head that it was difficult to place him.
Yeah. It was one of the, I think, 2 hat stalls in his year.
I believe so. I think one of them was him, and if I think it
It was
was
either
it
Dean or Seamus.
the stall.
Yeah.
I thought it was Neville, or I thought it was Neville or Hermione.
No. No, Neville and Hermione got placed in Gryffindor pretty quickly. It was either Dean or Seamus that they had trouble placing.
Okay, that honestly, because the characters themselves, like, they probably were deciding between Hufflepuff and Gryffindor for, I'd probably say Dean, and I could probably see like Gryffindor or Slytherin for Seamus possible.
Yeah.
But it all honestly depends. But moving forward, we are going to be picking out certain points. So I'm gonna pass over to you, and all the knowledge that we have from books 1 through 7, and all the knowledge that she has placed onto her website and everything. If you could pick 3 moments that essentially are the most important to Harry's character, for the universe being there, what would you say the 3 are?
Well, I think the biggest one is his parents dying. There's no way that Harry would be the main character, be who he is, without Lily and James being killed.
I can't agree with that.
Why not?
No, I said I can agree with that. I can agree with that.
Okay, you can agree with it? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's like his starting point. Um, as for the other 2, I think a big thing would be the Dursleys moving him around all the time and not wanting him to be part of the wizarding world. Because he would have been a lot, I think his life would have been a lot easier if his aunt and uncle said, hey, let's keep him in the wizarding world and stuff like that.
Or even like if they
Then,
rejected him, like, we're not taking care of him, like, you keep him.
yeah, I think them taking him in is a big part of who he is as well.
And it, like,
Um,
you hear them talking about him in the book, and like they make it seem like it was such a huge inconvenience to take him, and I'm like, it's not. You guys are really well off.
it
You
really
guys are
wasn't.
fine.
Yeah. One more kid was like, what? Dursley gets like what, 27 or 37 presents in birthday? Like,
Exactly. Like,
you're well
they
off.
have money. They have money.
Also, Dursley goes to a private school.
You're right. He
So
does.
so they have money. So taking in Harry when he's like what, 1 or 2,
I believe he's
it's
one.
not that big
Yeah.
of a deal. Yeah. So it's not like he's in the I'm going to wake up every 20 seconds crying his eyes out stage anymore. And you had Dursley as well, who's around the same age. So you have all of the things that you need for this child. The only weird thing about him is that, like, he has magic. But you knew that because you knew your sister had magic. So taking him in was not the biggest deal. You were just mad that you didn't get magic and your sister did.
I think ultimately, like, when it came to the the decision to keep him, it ultimately came down, I believe, to Petunia because I knew because I think that like Vernon was like, nope, nope, not happening, not whatsoever. Like we're not even discussing this. But I think it ultimately came down to Petunia. Like, look, I don't like this any more than you do. But here's the thing: my sister's gone. My parents, I'm not entirely sure yet, so don't quote me on this. My parents are gone. In order for me to become a square with my sister, I'm going to take care of this kid. So that way, in no way, shape, or form, they can't say that I didn't love my sister. I'm taking her kid in. I don't like this one bit. But you know what? I'm going to take it in, and I'm going to raise him as a son. And I think that was her way of squaring with her sister. Like, you can't say that I didn't love you. I'm taking your kid in, even though she did not treat him like a son in any type of way. So
Yeah.
I think that was her
I
mindset
think Harry
behind it.
definitely would have been Harry would have been a different kid if Sirius wasn't wrongly accused, because Sirius was his godfather and would have ended up taking him in.
There's actually a what if on YouTube about that, and like they said that one, he would be a bit more free spirited. He would be a lot more confident in himself,
Yeah.
and he'd have a lot better interactions with people as well because he was always very awkward talking and speaking with people because his entire life he did not have friends, and interacting with people was very like challenging for him. So that would have been because everyone who knows Sirius from the books, he's extremely confident, and he's confident not only in himself but in his skills, and he's also like he's extremely goofy as well. Like you get that from the chapters we get of the Marauders where he loves to laugh and joke around and do all these things, but he's also very loyal. So these traits would have been on Harry when he went to school.
Not only that, well, if Sirius raised him, you can't tell me that Lupin wouldn't have been right there, just going, he needs some more stability than just your
Yes.
craziness. So Harry would have been a very well-rounded person if the Marauders took care of him instead of the Dursleys.
I do agree with that. And I could honestly see it might be a stretch, it could be a stretch. I could see Lupin being the defense against the dark arts teacher at Hogwarts because one, I'm very sure that Sirius would allow Lupin to stay in the house with him. I know that for a fact. There's no way he's gonna let his
Yeah.
buddy no. There's absolutely not. So he would probably let him stay with them during the holidays, and then once he got enough money from working at Hogwarts, he probably get his own place, or they would just stay there because they're that tight. So I could see that happening as well, and I could also see with Lupin and Sirius raising him, I could see him being Harry. I'm talking about a lot more skilled as well.
Yeah, because they would be like, there is no way that we are sending you to Hogwarts without at least a little bit of knowledge already. Or like, hey, you can't tell me he would have ended up as a prankster. If he's raised this with by Sirius, he would have ended up as a prankster because Sirius would have been like, hey, this is what I did when I was at school, so here's the stuff for you to do it.
I could see it happening too. And Christmas would have been probably the best time for all of them. And I could honestly see I could see Sirius paying for all of Harry's like schooling, and I could see him also saying like, you know what, your parents left you that money. That's your money. I'm not taking a cent of it. That's your money. So I could see him
Yeah.
like for Christmas time, Sirius and Lupin like giving him gifts, but him also reciprocating, getting them gifts as well. Like it would be a very, very, very tight knit Christmas for them.
Yeah. And it's weird to think about like that Harry wouldn't be Harry for two different things that happened way before he has any memory. Like he doesn't have any memory of of why he was taken in, of his parents dying or anything like that. But those two moments of who took him in and his parents dying made him who he was. I think that third instance though that makes Harry who he is actually, it seems weird. When they first are on the train, and he becomes friends with Ron. Because if he never became friends with Ron, he would have never stood up to Draco. He would have never even like. It's just having the Weasleys as a friend to start with, like his very first friend, changed who all of his friends were from there on out.
And it gave him a perspective of the wizarding world as well, because for he's when he sees Draco and Ron, he's seeing two different perspectives when it comes to pure blood families. You're seeing one who lets blood purity get to their head and they think that they're better than everyone else, and you're seeing the ones that who are also pure blood, yet they have the kindness and the compassion towards other wizards, no matter what their backgrounds are.
Like, because imagine what Harry would be like if he got to school and the first person he met was Draco.
Ooh, that would have been ooh, you know.
Yeah. Because if the first person he met was Draco, you can't tell me that that boy wouldn't have been in Slytherin.
Well, let me ask this: when he gets to Hogwarts, has he already met Hagrid or no? Because that's also going to play a factor.
Yes, that was that's my other thought. Is it's everyone he meets uh from the first time he hears about the wizarding world all the way to like at school. Because like yeah, he's met Hagrid at this point. So he's already seeing the wizarding world through the way that Hagrid does. But could have easily, depending on if he met Ron first or if he met Draco first, could have easily decided, oh, well, I guess like he could have completely ditched Hagrid. But because he met Ron first, he ended up being like, okay, so this is how a lot of people see the world. But Draco would have made him question if Hagrid was a good person or not. But since he became friends with Ron first, he was like, okay, so these are the good people.
I do love that interaction that they have in the movies, like when they get off the train and Harry's just like, "Oh, hey Hagrid," and Ron's like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, Ron's just like, who? What? Why is he so tall?
And like, despite what the movies showed in about Ron's character, Ron is not stupid. He's not. He's actually
Oh
incredibly
God, no.
intelligent. Like there are things in the books that Ron knows about that Hermione does not have any clue about, and it's because he was raised with the Wizarding family. So I expect him to know more than than Hermione in some type of ways about certain things. So
Well, here, one of my favorite things is like in the movies you see little things that make you realize that Ron is so smart. Like the giant chess game.
yes,
He is brilliant at wizard's chess. And then him knowing about the dragons. You want to know why he knows about the dragons? It's because of Charlie. But no one in the movies actually knows who Charlie is. But you can't tell me that Charlie didn't walk around the house spouting random facts about dragons.
I think Charlie's mentioned one time in the entire series, in the entire like movie
He's
franchise.
mentioned twice. He's mentioned twice in the whole movie franchise. He's mentioned the very first time that they find Norbert,
Yep,
because he mentions like, "Oh, my brother works with dragons. That's how I know about dragons." And then he's mentioned again in the Goblet of Fire, like, "Oh,
you
Charlie's
are
here
right.
helping take care of the dragons."
And I think those are the only interactions that we have, and then, like we like his name is mentioned. Like they don't even put a face to him, which is even though he's not around that much in the books, we still have a face to put on as well.
Yeah, he's mentioned more in the books. I think he's mentioned until we meet him. He's mentioned at least once or twice throughout the like each book until we meet him.
Because let me think. He's mentioned a bunch of times in the first one, more towards the chapter with Norbert. In the second one, he's mentioned. I believe Ron stays with Harry during the winter break because his parents go to visit Charlie in Romania, I believe.
Yes. That is why he was like, "Oh yeah, I stayed behind because my parents wanted to go see Charlie in Romania." Um, and then it's like little things from there. It's just like, "Oh hey, I'm." It's like any sibling. Hey, I'm going to mention my brother or my sister here periodically.
But in the fourth book, we get an actual face, an actual like interaction with them, and I think he's mentioned again in the fifth book is that he's trying to recruit in Romania, and we see him in the sixth book because the wedding. Wait, is the wedding? No, wait. The wedding's not in the sixth book. It's in the seventh book, but he's mentioned a
Seventh book.
lot in the sixth book, but his face is not there, I believe.
Yeah, we physically see him in the seventh book because of the wedding and everything else going on.
Because I believe he's Bill's best man. I think, right?
Yes, he is.
So like I'm hoping
So,
like whoever's casting Charlie, whoever TV series, make it right. Don't justice for Charlie.
yeah, right?
So your particular points. Yours is Harry's parents dying, the Dursleys taking him in, and what was your third one?
Probably meeting Hagrid and Ron.
I can see that. I can
Things
see
like
that.
in the beginning of his life.
Those are all valid points. So my three that I'm going to put in. Uh, one of them is as mirrored to yours is his parents being murdered. I'm also going to I'll give some more background because it essentially starts the story out. Even though we don't see it in the first book, we know that it happened. And what's even worse in the seventh book is that we actually see through the eyes of Harry the interaction, which I think is probably one of the worst things he's ever seen in his life, is that he visually saw what happened to his parents. So, and
Yeah.
and the thing that's even sadder about that is that that happened on Christmas. Like I can't think of a worse way for something to happen on Christmas is to see your parents get unalived on Christmas.
Yeah.
So
I'm like, why out of all holidays did she pick Christmas for them to die?
it's like it's she did a fantastic job writing. She did. She wanted to make sure
I
that
think
Christmas is. Go
it's
ahead.
an impact thing. It's like what is going to be the most impactful thing? Like, okay, yes, them dying, but what's going to make it even worse? Okay, let's put it on a holiday. Like I said, hate her as a person, but she is a great writer.
Halloween was just like a tragic day to die, but for him to be reminded about it on Christmas, like, dude,
Yeah.
like I said, it's like the writing, really well done. My second one, this one actually might be a little bit of a hot take, is and I will actually when we come back for another episode, I'm gonna invite Mari again for this one because we're gonna go over the canon moments for the Marauders as a whole. I'm going to add this one in as a part of the universe is Remus Lupin's dad insulting Fenrir Greyback. And
Okay.
the reason I put that into effect is because once that happened, it seems everything seemed to fall in place because when that happened, Fenrir bit Lupin. Lupin couldn't go to school, but now he could go to school. He meets uh, James and Sirius and Peter all together. By him having those friends, what happens? They all become animagus as well. Lupin actually becomes like this voice of reason when talking with James. Like Sirius was good, but it seems like Lupin was like that voice, like, dude, you like if you like this girl, you've
Well,
got
yeah,
to
that's
calm
because
down.
James was the voice of reason for Sirius, so somebody needed to be the voice of reason for both of them.
And I think that also helped him have that change in the seventh year so that he would like Lily noticed and that they actually started going out. But had Lupin not been friends with James, he would have been like the bully that we saw in the books and read about that we saw in the movies, but we read in the books. Like I don't think that would have changed at all had Lupin not actually been that voice that actually calmed his head down and actually gave him a level head. Because of that, they all still stayed friends and everything, and it also ultimately led up to that friendship led up to Pettigrew betraying them, which led to Harry's parents being killed. So it's a little bit further back than what we all think, but I think it all ultimately starts there.
No, that makes complete sense. I didn't think about going that far back,
And
but
then
everything ends up connecting in some way.
and it usually ends up connecting in some way. And then my third one, this is probably a throwaway, but it's probably not even correct. I'm honestly gonna say, and this one also mirrors yours as well, is Harry meeting Hagrid. And I say that mostly because when you read the sixth book, Dumbledore comes to go check on to get Voldemort. Voldemort and Harry are very different individuals, but their first interaction with the Wizarding World is someone in some type of way. Now, there's a very minor detail in the first book that showed me like, okay, we gotta watch out for this kid because this it could go that way. When Hagrid brings Harry into Diagon Alley and they go to the bookstore, they're buying his books for his supplies. Harry's looking at this book it's about dark magic and curses, and Hagrid ends up pulling him away from the book, and Harry ends up saying like, "I want to figure out how I can curse Dudley." That immediately was a red flag for me. Like, okay,
I
we got to keep
forgot
an eye.
about that.
And I was like, okay, we need to keep a closer eye on this kid and just like make sure that his head is like going the straight and narrow. And Hagrid pulled him away from that. Had it probably been someone else, probably wouldn't have. They probably would have let Harry actually buy that book. And but Hagrid laid out all the majority of the rules for the Wizarding World for him, but he also showed him like this level of like the morality level of the Wizarding World. Not everyone you're going to see is going to be good. Not everyone you see is going to be bad. There is good and bad in this world, and it's up to you to figure out which is which. He was that first moral compass of the Wizarding World that Harry needed.
Yeah, I think I think that's a really good one. Um, and then but if he didn't have Hagrid and then he didn't meet Ron, he would have been like, okay, he probably would have ended up with that book. He would have ended up being friends with Draco. He would have ended up on Voldemort's side. Literally everything would have been so different. But he met Hagrid, who gave him a moral compass. He met Ron, who showed him that, yes, not all, like, showed them that wizards were good and everything like that. And then he proceeds to meet Draco, who is a bit much. So he knew right
We'll
then.
say much. We love Tom Felton here, but like it was a bit much.
We love Tom Felton and we love Draco's, like, redemption arc, but we don't love Draco in the first book.
Also, I want to point this out before we go a little further. So I remember, I think I saw this on Reddit. People wonder how Dumbledore gets like such great information, and how he seems to be well informed. And this was something that someone talked about on Reddit, and I was like, this makes complete sense. So there's a snippet in the fifth book that Bill was joking about, where he said like he doesn't Dumbledore doesn't care what you do or take away from him as long as you don't stop printing his name on the chocolate frog cards. And I'm like, that's hilarious, but someone pointed this out like the chocolate frogs are like pictures in the universe there. They move, they come in and out of frame and they move, they interact. Someone
Yeah.
pointed out that the chocolate frog that Harry got, that was Dumbledore, when the Dumbledore left the chocolate frog, he went to go see the Dumbledore, to see Dumbledore and his chocolate frog, and he told him, like, hey, Harry's on the way here.
That would make sense.
Like, certain chocolate frogs are connected to Dumbledore's one chocolate frog, and that's how he's able to get information from people. Or he has a bunch of chocolate frogs that relay messages and information, because that's what the Hogwarts portraits all do, is that they all leave their
Yeah.
frames and get information for Dumbledore. And like I
Yeah.
laughed
Do you
about it
know
at
how many
first. I'm like,
times that Bill said something weird? He just like offhandedly said something within the books and then it ended up being true. So
the little
that being
details.
true would not surprise me.
It's honestly just the little details, the little things that like it shows that everything that she's written is linked in some type of way. Like even from even from the minor details of like because the third book was completely dominated by Quidditch. I honestly believe like a third of the chapters, I think possibly more, were all dedicated to Quidditch in some type of way. So like
Yeah, you're not wrong there.
we don't really get like a insight to anything more, but each book is connected in some type of way. Like even in the second book, we are introduced to Moaning Myrtle and we're introduced to the diary. I did not know at all how important that diary was going to be until the sixth book, and it was so incredibly important that I couldn't honestly, I didn't believe it. But again, this is how she writes. And then what was it? The detail of Harry killing the basilisk in the Chamber of Secrets that turned out to be something significant in the seventh book.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of like little details throughout the whole series where like if you actually just like pile those little details up, you're just like, "Oh my god, she's been telling us this since the first book." And you're just like, "Why didn't I realize this?" Because it was such a small, minute detail that unless you go through and like really look at it, you're not going to notice.
And I think from the time, so there were 2 points when she was writing that it took a few more years than usual to get the books out. So when the fifth book came out, I think there was like a 3 year gap before that book came out. I think it was possibly 3 years. And I actually read a bunch of fan fiction within that time period before that book got released. And some of the fan fiction that I read, like they were full on books, not just like short snippets. They were full on books with chapters of people writing like because the title had been released, The Order of the Phoenix, but like there was just fan fiction. Some of the stuff that was written was very very spot on. Like some of it was so scary
Yeah.
accurate. I actually thought like okay, either she released this and I don't know about it, or they found some her computer and they were peeking. And then
Honestly, sometimes fan fiction writers just have the weird connection to whatever world or author that they're reading that they just guess and happen to be right.
like in one of the fan fictions, it was Harry got together with Cho, which I can understand that he already had feelings for in the third in the fourth book, which was understandable.
Such a
They
weird
had the
relationship.
Yule Ball
Anyway.
again. They had the Yule Ball again in the fifth in the fan fiction, which I'm like I actually enjoyed that, so I would like to have seen that come back.
Yeah.
Apparently, and then apparently, what was it? In this fan fiction, Harry, Ron, and Hermione all became animagus as well.
Oh, that's interesting.
But the reason they became animagus is absolutely hilarious. The reason they became animagus was that they were going to use their animagus forms to go to Azkaban to break Sirius and Lupin out of jail because apparently Sirius got arrested along with Lupin and it got sent back to Azkaban.
Yeah. Yeah, that is kind of a funny reason to become an animagus.
It was it
But very spot on for the Golden Trio.
so it was I still have that fan fiction because I like to go back and read it and I'm like this is ridiculous but it still makes me laugh.
Yeah. Sometimes fan fiction gets so out of hand, though. You got to be careful.
Also, Draco and Jenny were actually an item, and that apparently during the holiday, Draco and Jenny started talking, like they started interacting, and he was softer and nicer to her, and she ended up like calming him down and realizing like, hey, like the way you're acting, and like it was essentially if Snape got Lily arc essentially. And
Ah,
I was reading them like I don't like it, but I could see it if she does do this in the book. Like I could see it. And there's a point in
I
the
was reading a fan fiction where it was a self insert and they were a Hufflepuff and they ended up with Draco. And I was like, yeah, Draco probably needed a Hufflepuff to calm him down.
in all honesty, yeah. It would explain like the loyalty part of Hufflepuff being imprinted onto him as well. Being
Yeah.
kind to others, like even though because I'm pretty sure the Hufflepuffs probably had the most Muggleborns out of everyone in the school.
Yeah, they probably did. I think he would have needed a Hufflepuff that didn't take his shit either.
Yeah,
Because
Hufflepuffs are
they would have
yeah.
been needed to be that soft Hufflepuff, but also like the "Are you done?"
Because every
Almost
Hufflepuff
the Hufflepuff with anger issues would have worked.
every Hufflepuff I've read about from the series, they are incredibly loyal, stubborn, but they're also probably the most humanistic of the houses.
Yes, they definitely are. But yeah, I think a lot of the Muggleborns probably ended up there.
Because what was it? I believe Cedric was pureblood. I think he was. I have to go back and check that. And he was, by from what she described, one of the most nicest gentlemen, yet a fierce competitor. But again, he was no way, shape, or form a difficult person. Like he played fair by the rules. He was an awesome competitor, and he was someone who was also very skilled as well. So it's one. And then what was it? Newt Scamander. I can't think of a better personification of a Hufflepuff. Honestly,
Probably.
say again. You broke up a little bit.
I have
He
this like he just is the exact personification of
how Hufflepuff should be. I do agree with that.
there.
Yeah, I'm here. You broke out a little bit, but I'll fix it in editing. You're all
So
good.
did you. Yeah, good, good. I just looked it up real quick. It is not confirmed that Cedric is a pure blood, but it's like more of like a possibility
Gotcha. Okay.
because it's never actually fully mentioned.
So from the time points that I have and the time points that you have, who what point do you honestly think that this is the most important moment in the Harry Potter universe? What would you say is the number one pick?
Probably his parents dying.
I do honestly agree with that. I think a close second the um would be the Lupin's dad insulting Fairman Greyback, because
Yeah,
that starts everything off, and then I probably put
yeah,
him meeting Hagrid as number three.
yes, yeah. I think that would be a great order because like his parents dying is the number one thing that set off him, at least specifically, and then Lupin's father set everything else off, like all of them meeting and everything like that. And then Hagrid basically kind of made Harry who he was a moral compass wise.
I agree. I'm gonna throw in one honorable mention though, because neither one of us put this, but I'm gonna throw this in there as an honorable mention, as Snape hearing a partial point of the prophecy.
Yeah, that would that would be one because if he's full heard the full prophecy, he probably would have acted different than if he heard the only part that he heard.
And I do agree with that, because it also is set off the point of him going to Voldemort acting swiftly, I might add, to make sure that this kid was, eliminated, but not hearing the full thing ultimately is what caused his demise. Him acting swiftly and irrationally as well.
Yeah, because if he heard the full prophecy, he probably it would have gone different. It's also the fact that like he went specifically after Harry, where if the point of the prophecy that they heard, it could have been Harry or Neville.
That's one thing that
Neville could have ended up being the chosen one instead.
did they ever say why he ultimately chose Harry? I think they just said it in the book, but I don't know if we got a specific reason to
I
why.
think somebody convinced him Harry instead. I don't remember why. I don't remember in the. I would have to reread the books again. Um, but I think somebody convinced him to go after Harry.
Because as far as I know, when it came to like protection wise, Harry and his parents were protected far greater than what Neville's parents were.
Yeah,
So I think we're both in agreement that the Harry's parents dying was what ultimately set the universe in place, and then Lupin's dad, and I think Hagrid for number three.
yeah. Those would be the definitely the turning points for Harry, even if he doesn't remember them or wasn't around for them.
I think so too. That I think those are all like really great points. So as we're wrapping up here, do you have any other closing remarks?
No,
All right,
no, I think we covered everything.
cool, cool. All right, everyone. I want to thank my guest Mari for joining me here today on the Heart Can podcast.
It was wonderful to be here for you.
I'm glad I'm glad you were here. We'll talk some more in the future. Probably gonna have you come on for the Marauders episode too, because that's gonna be a very large episode. It's probably gonna jump into maybe well over an hour because there's so much content to go over with them, even if it's not mentioned in the books.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of content when it comes to the Marauders. I will gladly come back to sit there and talk to you about it.
Awesome, awesome. Well, everyone, we're gonna be closing out here. Thank you for joining us for the Heart Cannon podcast. And once again, this is your absolute moment. Peace.